Hello out there, Internet, and welcome back to another edition of VHYesterdayS, the show where I dig into the VHS Vault through all the myriad of tapes that I have and dig out some of my favorites and come on camera and talk to you guys about them. And this is one that I've wanted to do for a little while now, so I'm pretty excited about it. Every time I opened up all the boxes with my VHS tapes in them, I would come across these two tapes, and I just knew that I had to do a video about them soon enough. And this is of course Terminator and Terminator 2, so we're going to do a two-parter here. We're going to focus on Terminator right now, and we'll come back to Terminator 2. What's interesting about these releases in particular, usually when I look into my tapes, there isn't that many releases, but for some reason with Terminator, I think it's because it jumped around distribution companies lots of times. There's a lot of VHS releases of both these films, and for different reasons. We'll get into Terminator 2 later. So when I first was like, okay, which copy am I talking about? And I started looking into it. First thing I did look at the tape was I looked to see who distributed it. In this case, it's Atlantis, which if you're Canadian, you know Atlantis. You can probably hear the bumper at the start of the tapes or the DVDs in your head right now. They make a lot of deals with different distribution companies in the States to bring the movies up here into Canada. I know most famously probably Lionsgate. They did a lot of Lionsgate releases up here. Although I think Lionsgate might have made a deal with Maple at some point, so it's all, I don't know, there's so many, it's pretty tough to keep in mind with everything, but this one in particular, it's Atlantis. But if you look at the tape, the only dates you'll see on here are 1984 and 1995, and this did not seem like a 1995 release to me, and in fact, I think Atlantis didn't even exist until like the late 90s, so my best guess from looking at the dates on here, 1995, Live Entertainment put out a Laserdisc. So, and we'll do a little history on the tapes, but not too much. I don't want to belabor it too much. But the initial releases of this movie onto VHS were done by HBO and I'm trying to think of the other company. But there was two kind of initial VHS releases, and they were both fairly awful, bad picture quality, pretty fuzzy, and the sound was like off on pitch and everything. Like they were pretty crappy tapes. And then in 1991, Hemdale picked up the rights to release it. And they put out a nice VHS release. Again, 1995, Live Entertainment, I believe with Hemdale, did a Laserdisc release, which actually got rolled into a 1997 DVD, which I don't think is particularly, I don't think most people like that DVD release. I've never seen it myself, so I can't speak to it. But I believe this is basically a rip from the Laserdisc, from the 1995 Laserdisc. Live Entertainment eventually rolled into, I believe, Artisan Entertainment, and Artisan had a deal with Atlantis to release films in Canada, so I think that's the lineage of the whole thing. So I think this is the Laserdisc rip. Also, the box art here, I know it's the typical movie poster kind of rip, but I believe it's pretty much a lift right off the Laserdisc if you were to look at it. So it's basically the Laserdisc release put onto a tape, and it looks great. The picture quality on this is absolutely excellent. I was actually really shocked by how good it looked and really happy with it. And this is, again, there's no other dates on this, but my best guess is this was released around 2000, the year 2000. So, you know, it was a later tape anyway, but it has a great picture quality. Sound quality is pretty okay. The soundtrack sounded great. It's not like a Dolby or anything like that. I don't see anything on here to say it's a Dolby release or anything like that. So it's as good. It's decent enough. I didn't have any problem with it. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it was a pretty good sound quality. So overall, this was a really good release of the Terminator. And actually, it's funny. Ever since then, I've been obsessed with the soundtrack, and I've been listening to the soundtrack to the Terminator over and over again. And I mean, I've watched these movies so many times, and I've always considered Terminator 2 my favorite. And I think I still do, but I had a more of appreciation for the Terminator watching it this time. It's just, they're both totally different films. It's kind of similar to the Aliens thing. Like, this is a very different film tonally to this one. And I really enjoyed this is basically a horror movie, you know, blanketed as a sci-fi action thriller. It's such a mixed bag of film that it's just a really interesting movie, so I really appreciated it a lot more, I think, watching it this time around. So if you're a Canuck and you come across this Atlantis Terminator release, I don't know how it stacks up against like the 1991 Hemdale. I know it's better than the HBO and the other one. The name is just, I can't think of it, but this is definitely a good tape to pick up if you can and check out. So that's the Terminator. We're going to be back very soon to talk about the sequel, Terminator 2. I keep pointing like this, like you could see it, but you might not even be able to see it, so let's pick it up. Yeah, we'll be back very soon to talk about this release of Terminator 2 that I have. So I hope you guys enjoyed as always, and we'll talk to you soon.